Hello, ChartWatchers and DecisionPoint faithful. Welcome to this Monday, November 9th, 2020 episode of DecisionPoint. I am Erin Swenlin, and I am here with my father, Carl Swenlin, and our job is to help you be prepared for the week ahead, and we have a lot to share with you. I'd like to welcome my dad in. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Wondering how we prepare after today.
I know. Well, that's why everybody's tuning in. So we need to have a, we'll have some direction, I think. But quite the trading day. For those of you watching this and the recording, we are recording this on Monday at about 5 p.m. Eastern time. So we are looking at quite the climactic move today on all of the indexes. So we're going to take a look at those decision point indicators, in particular our climactic chart. I'm going to go over the DP scoreboard indexes, mainly because we had so many new buy signals come in last week, and then the Dow added a PMO buy signal today to join the other ones. So we'll look at that. We're going to have, Carl's going to go and do a sector review. I like to call it under the hood, because we have all of our indicators beneath each sector, so we can really look at what's going on those charts and get a feel for which sectors are performing and which ones are underperforming. Carl would also like to talk about gold and gold miners, and I will definitely join that discussion. And I'm going to look at the FAANGs, the FAANG stocks. I mean, they had a horrible, horrible day, despite a huge move to the upside for the S&P. So we'll have to take a peek at some of those. And then finally, I'm going to finish with my diamond of the week. So let's go ahead and get it started. I do want to remind everybody, I did a free Decision Point trading room this morning. It is open to everyone. All you need to do is go sign up for our free email newsletter or email list. It's right on the homepage for decisionpoint.com. And then you'll get notified of those trading rooms and how to register and join. All right, so here are those decision point scoreboards that I was talking about. And honestly, I could have circled these short-term trend model signals as well, because they all went on a buy signal last week. As I said, the Dow just posted its new PMO buy signal to join the other one. So it's been a week. The past week has shown us quite a few changes in our signal scoreboards, and now everything is green, with the exception still of the monthly sell signal on the PMO for the Dow Jones, but everything else at this point is looking pretty green. As far as our sector scoreboard goes, and like I said, Carl's going to be reviewing these more closely later in the show. But as you can see, energy still is the laggard with 2 sell signals in the intermediate term and long term. Financials have their 50-day EMA below their 200-day EMA as well. So that is a sell signal in the long term. And then finally, real estate. We were watching this one closely. At one point during the day, it did have a buy signal, but with the pullback at the end of the day, it was unable to follow through and get that buy signal for us. All right, so let's go look at some charts. Oh, you might be able to hear the ice cream truck in the background. All right. There we go. So I wanted to start actually with our intraday chart for the S&P 500, because it was a really interesting day. Of course, we had the huge gap up, and then we really just stayed in, you know, in a holding pattern here. And then at the end of the day, of course, we really dropped off. And what I wanted to point out is this short-term rising trend that we have had since October 30th. That's when we started this. And you know what? We did peak just below, or I should say bottomed, just below that rising trend line. So I think that there are some issues here. I know a lot of us were watching this and seeing that decline at the end of the day. Certainly made today's breakout somewhat suspect. All right, so I'm gonna actually skip in and do the DP scoreboard indexes, since I just talked about those signals, and then I'm gonna pass it over to Carl. I think we'll talk about our All right, so here's the Dow, and again, another breakout day here. Looks like we did end up hitting some all-time highs at one point during the day, but ultimately we did end up closing near the low for the day, which put us actually below this, what was resistance, and became support, and we lost that at the end of the day for the Dow. But here is that new buy signal that you can see. And then let's look at the NASDAQ 100, of course. You know, the SPY was up, the S&P was up almost 3%, and then we see the NASDAQ 100, which is heavy tech, as we know. And, you know, we broke out again during the day, but we've closed on the low, and we're back below that declining trend that we're seeing on the NASDAQ 100. So that's not good news there. OEX, a similar look, closing at the end of the day below the declining trend. And finally, let's look at that S&P chart really quickly on the daily. And again, long wick, if you will, if we were looking at this as a candle, and the close near the low for the day. That's typically not what you want to see to finish a nice rally day like we were having. So that pretty much catches you up on the 4 scoreboard indexes. Do you want me to pull up the indicator charts, or did you want to do that?
No, I'll do that.
Okay, I'm going to just pass that screen right to you then.
Okay, there we have the sector charts, starting with communications. And then, of course, communications was scraped out of the tech sector about a year ago. So now we have pretty much the same kind of a reaction today on communications. It was down, with most sectors were up, but let's let me look at one thing here. Yeah, here are the major indexes with crude up big time. We're going to take a look at that, and gold finishing low, but then NASDAQ bonds, NASDAQ composite, all doing not well.
Yeah.
And yeah, here are the 11 sectors that I'm going to cover charts on, but here energy was the big one today. over 14% increase. And tech and communications. Actually, all the previous leaders are at the bottom of the heap today. Now, the thing about energy is we wonder where the heck did this come from? Well, with Biden being potentially the winner of the election, we know that he's going to cut back on fracking and all sorts of energy, and that would be a signal for prices of energy, the available energy, to go up. So that's what I think this is anyway. I think that's where that came from.
That makes some sense.
Over the charts. Okay, I'm not going to get down here in the bottom on most of these, but mainly I just wanted to take a look at what we did today. You know, we started out today, you know, there's one point in the day the Dow was up over 1,600 points. It's amazing. And that was, of course, we didn't even mention it yet, but it was because of the prospect of let's see, Merck and another company coming out with a vaccine for the COVID, and should be out ready for distribution in about a month. And that just blew the roof off. This is one of those examples of how the news can just screw up everything you thought you knew and what was going to happen. I mean, because that was a surprise, although, yeah, it's amazing they kept that under wraps, but obviously it was a big surprise to everyone. Consumer discretionary closing down. That was formerly one of the leading sectors. Consumer staples closing down, formerly one of the leading sectors.
Failed breakouts.
I'm sorry?
failed breakouts on both of those.
Right, right. Fact is, mostly that's the case on most of the markets. Here's the biggie, energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's catching up. Bullish percent up to 75%, and that's, to me, that's just the start.
Mm-hmm.
But who would you really? I'm looking at this chart, and I don't see. I mean, okay, you could say potentially double bottom here,
Mm-hmm.
and again, and potentially really short-term double bottom. But none of that really tweaks my interest. Financials. This is what the rally was. Financials today mainly, and 8.21% in a single day.
What do the technicals look like underneath there? There we go.
Okay, bullish percent is getting up pretty overbought, but this really looks like a launch on these on this
Financial.
sector, and these haven't updated yet, so we don't know.
Oh, yes.
Healthcare. This was another one that was puzzling to me. This was okay. Beginning of last week, it started to rally, and it really spiked up in the middle of the week, and I was wondering what the heck is causing that. Well, again, it was appeared that Biden was going to be the winner, and if you recall, back when they were passing Obamacare, the healthcare stocks loved that, and they were rallying very heavily. Now, one of the things that kept Obamacare down is the individual mandate was gotten rid of by an executive order from President Trump. And with Biden taking over, that executive order can be erased overnight. So we're back to possibly having the mandate, and the healthcare sector likes that. And another sector with trading way high and then closing on the low, but still up 3.41%. Materials, same story.
Yeah, they're on a pretty nice rally, though. Fortunately, that didn't get too banged up.
Right. This trading high and closing low in the range for the day bothers me.
Yeah, on all of them.
And real estate, we almost got we did today. We got the 20 crossing up through the 50, but that went away again with the closing on its low. It's still up over 2.5%. Technology,
Yep.
not a happy.
Still in a trading range.
Utilities, it's all looking the same, right?
Yeah, big spikes and then pullbacks.
So now I'm going to switch over and cover gold.
Yes.
Now, let me just say, gold this weekend, on Friday, I was really tempted to override the model. The model was almost, this is GLD, so I want to get back to, let me just get to the gold chart. And almost got a crossover, but, and if they had stayed up here, it was definitely going to cross over today and give us another buy signal in gold. Was the trading pattern that's more visible on this chart, and it's just choppy, and this, you had a gap up and then it stalled, And this is the kind of thing that I expect something like this to happen. So I haven't been happy with gold. I haven't really been tempted to get in. And after I looked at this for a while, I didn't regret it. So, and as a matter of fact, gold traded down way above what it should have just because of what the dollar did. The dollar was up some small amount. Most of this gold is people bailing out of gold right now. And the miners having a problem, had a breakout, but now down over 6%. And
yeah, it didn't, I mean, the BPI turned down, but it didn't,
right.
doesn't seem like that much technical damage was done considering.
Yeah, I'm not expecting gold to really crash or take the miners down. You know, I don't think we're going to have a horrible crash in gold, but I don't know how long this stuff's going to last.
Mm-hmm.
And it could, be weeks or months. And I keep watching it.
Yep. We'll keep informing you here.
Okay, and I think that covers it for me. I guess I can turn it back over.
Sure. I wanted to look at our, because we talked about it a little bit before the show. I don't think it's completely up to date, but the Climactic Indicators chart.
Right. We definitely had climaxes all over the place. The only place that we didn't get climactic activity was minus the advances minus declines.
Yep. And we're continuing to see that decline, which is a little bit bothersome to me. That's a huge spike to the upside, another huge spike on the new highs. And the VIX, it also closed on its high. Of course, we invert our VIX. So you can see it didn't even get to that upper Bollinger Band, and it's starting back down a little bit here. And the giant spike on volume as well. I mean, it has the earmarks of an exhaustion to me. I'd be curious your opinion as well.
Right. Well, I think we'll have to sort that out for the blog because, yeah, this is definitely a climax days. And as we know, we have either exhaustion climaxes or initiation climax. So.
Yep. And we will talk about that in our DecisionPoint blog for our subscribers. So recommend you check that out. You can get today's blog if you go and subscribe now. So it should be an interesting DP alert today, that is for sure. Okay, so I wanted to go over that particular chart, and then I'm going to see if our Swenlin trading oscillators are updated yet. Make sure. Okay. Yeah, we don't have some of these readings on the other indicators just yet, but we were already seeing some problems here. Going in, we were confirming the downtrend. So this does seem suspect to me, just looking at these indicators right now. The STOs are so overbought right now as well. So, something to keep an eye on. We do mark these cardinal tops, and so you can really see what happens before. And while we could maintain this bullish bias for quite some time, usually when we start to get to the overbought territory on these, we need to start paying attention. All right, so let me go, and I'm going to look at the FAANG Plus stocks. I'm just going to look at them briefly, and then we will talk a little bit more about this week's Diamond of the Week. It's an interesting selection for me, especially after we go through all these charts. You'll probably agree. Okay, so this is Apple, of course, down 2% on the day. Now, it didn't really ruin its rising trend just yet, but we certainly didn't even challenge overhead resistance here at 125. So, at least that rising trend is still intact. We're still above the 20-day EMA, but this is all starting to look a little bit troublesome. as far as Apple goes. And again, you know, for me, and I know you probably agree, but you can let me know, is, you know, we watch the technology sector, they tend to lead the market because, of course, they have the largest caps, a lot of them. And so when I see the market do something different, it does concern me a little bit. It does show, like we were talking about though before the program, that you know, the market can go up. It doesn't have to take, it doesn't need to be technology necessarily that leads it there. The interesting thing was it didn't bring it down either today. When you see how these FAANG stocks.
One thing, you notice the volume on Apple, and I'm thinking about the when the market opened this morning, and it was up 5-6%, the broad market.
Yes.
Apple, I went to see how much that was doing, and it was up maybe 2%, maybe a little less. But you know, compared to the rest of the market, you think, well, you can see the volume by the volume, the amount of rally that it had early on did not suck anybody in. You know, it didn't bring in a lot of volume, and of course it didn't go down that much, so it did not like to blew anybody out. But this is kind of unusual for the volume not to be really high today.
Yes. Yeah, because it usually does. Again, these are some of the leaders, you know. I'm just going to go down. These are the S&P 10. I actually wrote about these prompted by you for the ChartWatchers, I think 2 weeks ago, a week ago. So I looked at all of these and I was troubled by a lot of these charts, the way they were acting. A week ago, of course, we didn't have all the action we have now, where we got these gap ups and movement. But, you know, we got the buy signal here. Everything looked great on this big gap up. And then, boom, here's Adobe. And it's, you know, again, had a decent open. It was up for part of the day, but it closed near its low below both that 20 and 50-day EMA, which tells me Adobe, we're probably going to have to endure more pullback. I would look for this gap to be covered to the downside. Amazon today down 5%. You know, and a lot of my trading room folks this morning, and typically even on Fridays for my subscriber only Diamond Mine trading room, you know, a lot of people are asking, you know, is this the time to buy in on these bargain moves, if you will, to the downside? And I would say that on some of these, it might be interesting to do so. But on a lot of these, there's still a lot of downside that it's certainly vulnerable to. Amazon is one. Facebook, I believe, yes, it was down all day today, and it closed near the bottom, of course, on its low. The PMO was damaged by this. It did top a little bit here. And again, we've got these island situations going on, but it's not very close to its support level. It can certainly fall further for Facebook. It'll be interesting to see what does end up coming of this big decline. Google was an exception. It was up quite a bit this morning when I was looking at it in the trading room. And again, we're really not seeing a whole lot of damage here to Google. The rising trend is still intact. It's still above overhead resistance. So I think of all of them, Google still has some possibilities. And you can see a pretty nice PMO going on there as well. MasterCard, another big one.
Stock.
Yeah, it's in technology, but let's face it, it's financial. And so we got that big gap. It didn't close on its low. So this one looks a little bit more promising on that move. And we do have a PMO buy signal that did come in on that big gap up. I have to say with most of these that I would say with a lot of these big moves to the upside today on some of these stocks, more than likely, you're going to see some pullback. Just something to keep in mind, unless it did like most of these where it started on its high and then pulled back to its low already. And this is Microsoft really lost its rising trend, and the PMO is still rising, so that looks pretty good. Here is Netflix. I'll be talking about that more shortly. But we did get that gap, that top below the signal line, and the PMO is back in negative territory here, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. NVIDIA, this is another big one. PMO top below the signal line at this point, and we didn't get that buy signal. It failed at overhead resistance and pulled way back to that 20-day EMA. So that could be an issue for NVIDIA. You know, it didn't hold the 20-day EMA last time. It didn't even hold the 50-day EMA last time. So I would be a little bit suspect of NVIDIA. And finally, we'll finish with Visa, which I'm sure looks a lot like MasterCard. Indeed, in this case, it did get above its overhead resistance level here at that September top, but it did end up pulling back like most of the stocks we saw today. But really nice looking PMO, and it is on the buy signal with that giant gap up. All right, so that covers my look at the S&P 10, just to get us caught up from last week. Any comments in particular you have maybe on these charts?
No, not this time. You're
Okay.
gonna need your remaining time, aren't you?
We still have a few minutes.
Well, there is one thing. Amazon, let's see. One of the things that I thought was influencing big tech was the talk about antitrust action.
Yes.
And I still think that's in play. I thought it was I've been hearing it recently, and I was thinking coming from the Republican side, but I watched on Amazon Prime last night, I watched the Amazon Empire documentary show, and it was basically about Jeff Bezos. Excuse me. And during that, it showed
possible antitrust issues.
It showed Democrats talking about the antitrust thing. So I think tech's got a problem in that area, no matter who gets into the White House.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely. All right, so it is time for my diamond of the week, and I actually picked it last Friday, and I'm going to stand by it. And that actually is Netflix, which
Yikes.
had a very difficult day. I'm going to move this and make it a little bit bigger. Yes, the technicals are breaking down, and it certainly could break down further. I'm not saying that this is a for sure thing here, but it's really lined up for that, you know, that turn on a low. The 200-day EMA is here. You can see how strong this area of support has been, and we're getting ready to test it again. What I like is that if I want to take a chance on Netflix, I can and still have a really tight stop without having to, you know, put myself in a bad position here, watching the decline on Netflix and what we're seeing in the market overall. But it's coming down now, and it is testing some really important support. So despite looking at a PMO that is top below its signal line and RSI that has moved back into negative territory, you can see that the difference of this chart from on Friday to today is huge, but it's a one-day deal. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel here for Netflix. In any case, you can still play the trading range is how I'm looking at it. I feel the market itself isn't going to be in a trading range for a while. All right, that concludes it for us today. We wish you a great week and happy trading.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.